Right now, as you're watching this video, there are monsters sitting in Russian prisons who have collectively ended over 130 lives. Not in a war, not in self-defense, for pleasure, for curiosity, for reasons that would make your skin crawl. One of them ate his victims. Another kept trophies in jars. And the most terrifying part, some of them smile when they talk about what they did. I'm about to take you inside the minds of 5 serial killers who are still breathing Russian air, still eating meals, still existing, while their victims can't. But before we dive into this darkness, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, fam, you do not want to miss what's coming on this channel. We go where other creators are too scared to go. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to Trust Me, Fam, where we explore the stories that keep you up at night and the truths that others won't tell you. Russia has a dark history with serial killers. During the Soviet era, the government denied their existence entirely, claiming that serial murder was a Western disease that couldn't exist in their perfect communist society. This denial allowed killers like Andrei Chikatilo to operate for over a decade, racking up 52-plus confirmed victims before anyone would admit there was even a problem. Today, we're looking at 5 of the most notorious serial killers who are still alive in the Russian prison system. These aren't historical monsters. These are living, breathing reminders of humanity's darkest capabilities. Grab something to hold on to. This is going to be disturbing. Killer 1. Alexander PICHUSHKIN, the Chessboard Killer. Let's start with probably the most infamous one still living. Alexander PICHUSHKIN, better known as the Chessboard Killer. Born April 9, 1974, in Moscow, PICHUSHKIN had a seemingly normal childhood until age 4, when a playground accident changed everything. He fell off a swing, suffered a severe head injury, and friends and family noticed a dramatic personality shift afterward. He became aggressive, prone to mood swings, and developed an obsession that would define his murderous career: chess. The chessboard connection. PICHUSHKIN wasn't just good at chess. He was obsessed. He wanted to kill 64 people, one for each square on a chessboard. In his twisted mind, each murder was a move in the ultimate game, a competition with himself where human lives were merely pieces to be removed from the board. Between 1992 and 2006, 14 years, PICHUSHKIN prowled Moscow's Bitsa Park, a sprawling green space in the southern part of the city. His method was chillingly simple. He'd befriend lonely, vulnerable people, often elderly men or homeless individuals, invite them for drinks in the park, and then murder them. The method, his signature, a hammer to the back of the head. But that wasn't enough for PICHUSHKIN. He'd often insert a vodka bottle into the skull wound, a grotesque calling card that investigators would come to recognize. He later told authorities that watching his victims suffer gave him a life-affirming feeling. Let that sink in. Life-affirming. The taking of life made him feel alive. He confessed to 61 murders, though he was convicted of 48 when arrested in 2006. Police found his chessboard with dates filled in on many squares, his own scorecard. When asked why he started, he said, "For me, a life without murder is like a life without food." The capture. His downfall came through a victim's cell phone. Marina Mosklyova, one of his co-workers, agreed to go to the park with him on June 14, 2006. She left a note for her son, saying she was going to Bitsa Park with PICHUSHKIN. When she disappeared, police had their first solid lead. Surveillance footage showed them together. PICHUSHKIN was arrested shortly after. Today, now 50 years old, Alexander PICHUSHKIN is serving a life sentence at the Polar Owl prison colony in the Arctic region of Yamalo-Nenets. It's one of Russia's harshest prisons, where winter temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. He spends 23 hours a day in a 7 by 10-foot cell. In a 2017 interview, he showed zero remorse, stating, "I killed for myself. I'm not a hero. I'm a killer who wanted to become famous." He achieved his fame, but at the cost of countless families destroyed and a legacy as one of Russia's most prolific murderers. Killer 2. Mikhail Popkov, the werewolf. If PICHUSHKIN's story is terrifying, wait until you hear about Mikhail Popkov, a former police officer who used his badge to hunt. Born March 7, 1964, Popkov seemed like a model citizen. He was a police officer in Angarsk and Irkutsk, Siberian cities where people trusted law enforcement. He was married, had a daughter, and by all accounts, lived a normal suburban life. But at night, he became something else entirely. Between 1992 and 2010, Popkov murdered at least 83 people, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in Russian history and one of the worst in the world. His nickname, the Werewolf, came from his dual nature: respectable cop by day, sadistic killer by night. The hunting ground. Popkov specifically targeted women he considered immoral. Prostitutes, women he saw drunk on the streets, women walking alone at night. In his warped worldview, he was cleansing the streets. He used his police car to offer rides to these vulnerable women, and they'd get in without hesitation. After all, he was a cop. They trusted him. Once they were in his vehicle, he'd drive them to isolated areas and attack them with axes, hammers, and knives. The brutality was extreme. Many victims had over 30 stab wounds. The investigation. For years, police couldn't connect the murders. Different weapons, different locations, no obvious pattern except that victims were all women. The investigation went cold multiple times. The breakthrough came from DNA evidence. In 2012, Russian police began a massive DNA screening operation in Irkutsk, testing thousands of men. Popkov's DNA matched samples from multiple crime scenes. When arrested, he initially confessed to 22 murders, then 59, then 61. The final count reached 83 confirmed murders, with some investigators believing there may be more. The trial. During his trial, Popkov was chillingly articulate. He described his crimes in detail, showing little emotion. When asked why he killed, he blamed alcohol and said he was cleansing society. He told the court, "I was cleaning up the streets." Psychologists who evaluated him found him sane and fully aware of his actions. He wasn't insane, he was evil. Today, Popkov, now 60 years old, is serving 2 life sentences at the IK 6 Melikovo prison colony in Vladimir Oblast, one of Russia's most secure facilities. He's in a special unit for prisoners convicted of particularly grave crimes. And here's the kicker. Smash that subscribe button right now, fam, because we're only halfway through this list, and trust me, the next killer makes these 2 look almost tame. Don't miss what's coming. Hit subscribe. Hit that bell. You know you want to. In 2020, during additional interrogations, Popkov helped investigators find previously undiscovered remains. He's become one of the few serial killers in history to have his victim count increase after conviction as he continued to remember and reveal additional murders. His case sparked major reforms in Russian law enforcement, raising questions about how a police officer could commit such atrocities for nearly 2 decades without detection. Killer 3, Vladimir Ionsian, the foreigner. Now we move to a different kind of monster. One motivated not by sexual sadism or delusions of cleansing, but by pure greed. Vladimir Ionsian, born in 1969 in Armenia, earned his nickname, the Foreigner, due to his ethnicity. He wasn't ethnically Russian, and this detail was noted in press coverage of his crimes. The scheme. Between 1991 and 1992, during the chaotic collapse of the Soviet Union, when Russia was transforming into a market economy, Ionsian saw opportunity in the confusion. He targeted elderly women living alone in Moscow apartments that were becoming valuable property as real estate markets emerged. His method was calculated and cold. He'd befriend elderly women, often through personal ads or chance meetings. He'd gain their trust over weeks or months, then murder them and forge documents to take ownership of their apartments. The murders. Ionsian killed at least 11 elderly women, though investigators believe the number could be higher. His methods varied: strangulation, stabbing, blunt force trauma, but the motive remained constant: real estate. What makes Ionsian particularly chilling is his complete lack of the typical serial killer profile. He wasn't driven by sexual urges or psychological compulsion. He simply saw murder as a business transaction. Elderly women were obstacles to property ownership, nothing more. The capture. His arrest came when relatives of one victim became suspicious about the sudden transfer of property ownership. When police investigated, they uncovered a pattern connecting multiple suspicious deaths and property transfers. During interrogation, Ionsian was matter-of-fact about his crimes, showing the emotional depth of someone discussing a failed business venture rather than mass murder. Today, Vladimir Ionsian, now 55, is serving a life sentence in a Russian maximum security facility. Unlike PICHUSHKIN and Popkov, he's received less media attention over the years, perhaps because his crimes lack the sensational sexual or psychological elements that capture public fascination. But make no mistake, 11 elderly women died alone and terrified, so this man could profit from their apartments. The banality of his evil makes it no less horrifying. Killer 4. Sergei Tkach, the Polygovsky maniac. Sergei Tkach might have the most disturbing distinction on this list. His killing spree directly led to the wrongful conviction and suicide of multiple innocent people. Born in 1952, Tkach was a married father of 2 who worked various jobs throughout Ukraine and southern Russia. Between 1980 and 2005, 25 years, he raped and murdered at least 36 girls and young women, with ages ranging from 8 to 18 years old. The pattern: Tkach targeted victims near train stations and in transitional areas where young girls might be traveling alone. He'd approach them with various pretexts, offering help, asking for directions, claiming to be a friend of their parents. Once isolated, he'd sexually assault and murder his victims, often strangling them or beating them to death. He'd then hide or abandon the bodies, sometimes staging scenes to mislead investigators. The wrongful convictions. Here's where this case becomes almost unbearably tragic. Because Tkach was so careful and operated across different jurisdictions, police arrested and convicted 14 innocent people for his crimes. 9 of these wrongfully convicted individuals were sentenced to lengthy prison terms. 3 were executed. 1 committed suicide after being released, unable to cope with the stigma of having been accused. Think about that. Tkach's crimes didn't just destroy his victims and their families. They destroyed the lives of more than a dozen innocent people who were blamed for murders they didn't commit. The capture. Tkach was finally caught in 2005 through DNA evidence that definitively linked him to multiple crime scenes. When confronted, he confessed to 36 murders and provided details only the real killer would know. The aftermath. The case led to significant criticism of Russian and Ukrainian law enforcement methods, particularly the use of confession-based convictions without sufficient physical evidence. The wrongful convictions were all based on forced or coerced confessions from vulnerable suspects who police pressured into admitting guilt. Today, Sergei Tkach, now 72 years old, is serving a life sentence at a maximum security colony in Russia. Due to his age and the nature of his crimes against children, he's kept in protective segregation. Other inmates have their own form of justice for child killers. In interviews, Tkach has expressed some remorse, though psychologists note this may be performative. He's also provided information that helped exonerate some of the wrongfully convicted, though for many, this help came too late. Killer 5. Radik Tadjurov, the Volga maniac. Our final killer brings us to more recent history in a case that terrified Russia's Volga region in the 2010s. Radik Tadjurov, born in 1972 in Tatarstan, seemed unremarkable, a factory worker, married with children, living a quiet life in Kazan. But between 2011 and 2012, he murdered at least 11 women, earning the nickname the Volga maniac. The pattern. Tadjurov's victims were women he encountered through dating websites and personal ads. In the early 2010s, online dating was becoming popular in Russia, and Tadjurov exploited the relative anonymity and trust that these platforms facilitated. He'd arrange meetings with women, often suggesting walks along the Volga River or drives to scenic areas. Once isolated, he'd attack them with extreme violence, stabbing, strangulation, and in several cases, dismemberment. The investigation. Police noticed a pattern. Women meeting men from online dating sites were disappearing around Kazan. The bodies were found in forests, abandoned buildings, and along the riverbanks. The breakthrough came from digital forensics. Investigators traced online profiles and communications, eventually identifying Tadgerov as a common connection among several victims. The capture. In 2012, police set up surveillance on Tadgerov after digital evidence pointed to him. They caught him meeting another potential victim and arrested him before he could strike again, potentially saving that woman's life. During interrogation, Tadgerov confessed to 11 murders, though investigators suspected there might be more victims. He described his crimes with disturbing detachment, explaining that he enjoyed the power and the control over his victims. The psychological profile. Unlike some serial killers who have clear patterns from childhood, Tadgerov seemed to develop his murderous tendencies later in life. Psychologists who evaluated him found traits consistent with narcissistic personality disorder and sadism, but no clear triggering trauma. His case highlighted the new dangers of the digital age, how predators could use technology to access and exploit victims with unprecedented efficiency. Today, Radik Tadgerov, now 52, is serving a life sentence at a maximum security facility. He's one of the younger living serial killers in Russian custody, meaning he could potentially spend 40+ more years behind bars. In 2019, he attempted to appeal his conviction, claiming police coerced his confession. The appeal was denied when prosecutors presented the overwhelming digital and physical evidence linking him to the crimes. So there you have it, fam. 5 monsters, still breathing, still existing in Russian prisons while their victims can't. Alexander PICHUSHKIN with his chessboard of death, 83 confirmed kills. Mikhail Popkov, the cop-turned-werewolf with 83 murders. Vladimir Ionsian, who killed for apartments. Sergei Tkach, whose 25-year rampage destroyed not just his 36 victims, but also ruined the lives of 14 innocent people. And Radik Tadgerov, the digital age predator who exploited online dating to find his 11 victims. Combined, these 5 men murdered at least 194 people. That's nearly 200 families destroyed, 200 futures erased. Thousands of people left to grieve and wonder why. What's particularly chilling about these cases is how ordinary these men appeared. Popkov was a trusted police officer. Tadgerov was a family man with social media profiles. They lived among normal people, and nobody suspected the darkness they carried. These cases remind us that evil doesn't always announce itself. It can wear a uniform. It can smile and offer you a ride. It can send you a friendly message online. Russia's history with serial killers is complicated by decades of denial during the Soviet era, inadequate forensic technology, and vast geographic distances that allowed killers to operate across multiple jurisdictions. Many of these murderers benefited from these systemic failures, racking up victim counts that rival or exceed the most notorious American serial killers. The good news? They're all behind bars, most in Arctic prisons where conditions are deliberately harsh. They'll never walk free. They'll never kill again. But they're still alive, still thinking, still remembering what they did. And that's something their victims can never do. Listen, fam, if you made it this far, you're part of a different breed of viewer. You're here for the real, for the dark truths that others won't cover. So here's what I need you to do right now. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're building a community of people who aren't afraid to look into the darkness and learn from it. Turn on all notifications because, trust me, the content coming to this channel is going to be insane. We're going deeper. We're going darker. We're going places other creators won't touch. Drop a comment telling me which case shocked you the most, or if there's a dark topic you want us to cover next. I read every single comment, and your suggestions shape this channel. And hit that like button to tell the algorithm that this is the content people want to see. Help us grow this community of truth seekers and reality facers. We're just getting started on Trust Me Fam, and I promise you, you don't want to miss what's coming. This is Trust Me Fam, where we go deep, go dark, and go real. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, fam. And remember, the monsters are real, but so is the justice that caught them.